What's up, you guys? We're back with some more college football picks. I'm Katelyn Heffler, and this is Alex and Jason. We're here with some more picks this week. Guys, how are we doing? How did we do last week before we get into our picks for this week?
Jason?
I had an okay week. I'm still over 500 on the year. So that's what matters most. The pick of the week, Kennesaw State plus whatever number of points, that broke several trends and it went against me. But we are undeterred. We will forge forward.
I went 3-2 last week, following up a 3-2 in week 1 and a 2-1 in week 0. So I'm 8-5 on the year. That's good. I mean, I'm generally pleased with it if we could keep that up. The problem for me is that I am 1-2 on my picks of the week. So the ones that I felt best about have not been hitting, but everything else has been. That's fine. I mean, we'll take the overall 8-5, try to build on it this week.
Well, it looks like things are looking pretty good for us moving forward. I'm 2 for 2 for my picks of the week, so I'm pretty happy with that. But I'm mixing it up this week, so let's see. All right, well, let's get into our picks for the week. Are you ready, guys?
I'm excited. I'm going to start with Coastal Carolina and Buffalo. I have Coastal Carolina -10 in this game. I like Buffalo a lot. I like Buffalo so much that last week I got conned by Buffalo on my pick of the week and thought they would cover +14 at Nebraska. They didn't, and I watched a bit of that game because I was hoping for the backdoor cover throughout the second half. Didn't happen for me. Buffalo's offense was really lifeless in a way I didn't expect, having come to see what they did under Lance Leipold the last couple of years. Kyle Ventries does not seem to have much going on at quarterback right now, and the running game just isn't the same as it used to be. I think Coastal will score a ton of points in this game, and I'm not sure where Buffalo is going to find enough points to stay within 10.
I like the revenge pick. Buffalo, you have failed me. Therefore, I will pick against you. I just, these lines fluctuate throughout the week, so I can only go by what there was on Sunday. Alabama, Florida, I have over 56 for that game. They both almost hit that number so low against each other last year. Obviously, there's no more Devontae Smith, Kyle Pitts, but I mean, both these teams like points these days. So give me the big number, the big satisfying high total. It's totally fine if Alabama does 56 all by itself.
Yeah, I would be happy with that.
I'm sure you would.
That would count. Roll Tide roll. Jason, I thought about the over in that game, and I decided to stay away because I'm a little afraid that Emory Jones is not going to be able to throw anything on the Bama defense, which Katelyn can tell you is quite fearsome and no fun for the rest of the country, but probably a lot of fun for her as an Alabama fan. I'm on Virginia Tech and West Virginia over 50 in this mountain game. I think that Tech's week 1 defensive effort against Sam Howell and UNC was very impressive. I can buy that the defense has stepped forward a bit under Justin Hamilton, but 50 is just not a lot of points for two teams that have, and especially in West Virginia's case, that have something of a track record of playing sort of shootout-ish games, even if West Virginia stepped a little bit away from that under Neil Brown. I think that both of these teams should get at least into the 20s, and from there, it just doesn't take a lot to somehow get to 51. One or two of these teams being into the upper 20s would obviously go a long way towards that. I think West Virginia's offense would have scored well into the 30s at Maryland, if not for some dumb errors that they do not have to repeat down in the red zone. And I think West Virginia's secondary has plenty of holes for even Braxton Burmeister and Virginia Tech's limited passing offense to make some hay against.
Speaking of dumb errors, I'm betting on UMass. All right. I have UMass +18 against Eastern Michigan. I mean, this is basically a bet that Eastern Michigan is probably not one of the 100 best teams in Division I, so they should they be favored by more than 2 scores against anybody, particularly on the road. UMass is very bad. Eastern Michigan is bad, so this is a bet that the gap between very bad and bad is not quite that big.
Oh boy, we might have to stage an intervention if we're going to be placing UMass bets on UMass to cover spreads, but I respect you enough to let you make your own mistakes in the world and to not bother you. I'll get 2 out of the way here because I think I have more picks than you. Northern Illinois and Michigan. I have Michigan -27.5. NIU has been prickly. They did beat Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech appears to be terrible. I am not totally sure yet what to make of Michigan after they beat WMU and Washington, because I'm not sure that either of those teams is great. But I think the defense is really good. I think that this is a good Jim Harbaugh Michigan defense under their new coordinator, Mike McDonald. I think it's maybe going to be their best defense since the Jabril Peppers, Jordan Lewis days that feel like they were 50,000 years ago at this point. So I'm optimistic about Michigan, and I think that they can find enough points to win by 4 touchdowns at home. Also, Western Michigan and Pitt, I just mentioned. I'm not sure Western Michigan is great, but I think this is a come-down game for Pitt. So I'm on Western Michigan plus 15.5, or at least that's where it was on Sunday. Fits the profile of a game where Pitt plays down to the level of their competition and gets into some trouble against a team they really shouldn't, coming off a nice win and a cover for me at Tennessee. And I have watched enough Pitt football over the years, being from Pittsburgh, to know that when Pitt should just step on a team when it's down and when they should crush that team, that's not the way Pitt rolls. So I'm on the Broncos.
I love the amount of directional Michigan and general MAC content we have going here, so let's keep it going. I have Central Michigan plus 21 at LSU. I've been a bit down on LSU all year, and that is yet to fail me. This is basically a bet that will LSU really bother scoring enough points to put away the Chippewas by that big of a number. A 20-point loss, we're all happy.
I think that would leave a lot of people happy. UConn and Army are playing in what could be just a sickening thing to watch this weekend. Could be one of the U.S. Army's greatest routes in the history of that esteemed branch of the armed forces. I have the under at 51.5 in this game. We've talked before on the show, Katelyn and Jason, about how UConn is really, really spectacularly bad. The Army defense did let up a rough backdoor cover for me last week against Western Kentucky, but UConn just does not have the capacity to move the ball the way that WKU did at the end of that game. Army is not, I think it is quite possible that Army does not throw a pass in this game. I think that Army is going to just run the ball into the line until they've run out the clock, winning like 40-0 or something like that. And that's totally fine. That would get us out of there happy with an under.
Very good. I am sticking with my theme of betting on very bad teams against teams. I'm taking FIU plus 21 at Texas Tech. Texas Tech, I mean, I don't know if they have the firepower and or interest to put away Florida International by this much. That didn't look spectacular against an FCS team. So, again, just strictly a bet that the number's a little bit too big.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I have New Mexico and Texas A&M under 52. Speaking of numbers being too big, there is almost no chance that UNM scores more than 2 touchdowns in this game against a really brutally good A&M defense. I think that A&M's offense was terrible when Zach Calzada replaced an injured Haynes King last week against Colorado. It would not surprise me if Haynes King sits this week, no matter how healthy he is, because you're playing New Mexico. You don't need him. I could just see a real slog here where A&M does not score enough to carry all of that points weight on its own to get us to the total. So I like under 52 in that game.
All right. Well, that's our picks for the week. Jason and Alex's picks. And everything's looking good to me so far. There's nothing that stands out to me that really I'm completely against this week. So I'm excited to see, what shape we're in next week. And are you guys ready to get started with our picks of the week?
Oh, I'm into it. I'm very excited. My pick of the week, I'm going to be an optimistic fan of my alma mater for a moment. Maryland and Illinois on Friday night. I have Maryland -9 in this game. I am conditioned to expect bad things to happen to Maryland when they seem to be going well, as they do right now at 2-0. I nonetheless think Maryland is going to crush Illinois in this game. Illinois is terrible. The Nebraska game was a long time ago now, and I think it was more likely a product of Nebraska just being awful back in week 0, and still when Illinois put the beating that it did on the Huskers. Maryland's offense very legit. Talia Tagovailoa, Dante Demas, Raheem Jarrett, one of the better wide receiver groups in the country, I think, and a pretty good quarterback to get them the ball, and a better defense to go with it. Illinois is terrible. The last 2 weeks has looked terrible against both UTSA and UVA. So I'm on the Terps.
And we are still under the jurisdiction of September, Maryland. That still implies for
yes,
at least
absolutely.
4 weeks. I, as a devoted acolyte of the Church of the Big Number, must excommunicate myself. I'm taking Texas A&M to cover the 25 against New Mexico. New Mexico is horrible. And A&M, at very least, has the defense to, if New Mexico scores 10 points, I'll be astounded. A&M, of course, has the quarterback injury, but Jimbo has a whole week to patch something together. Get 4 touchdowns might do it. Anyone can score 4 touchdowns against New Mexico. Besides, it's not like Haynes King was going to play the entire game anyway, like Alex just said. So A&M, that that's a small number, in my opinion. That big number is not big enough.
All right, well, to wrap things up, I'm going to do my pick of the week. I have got Georgia Tech plus 28.5. Obviously, Clemson is not the Clemson they have been like last year, so in the last few years. So I think that Clemson will win, but definitely not by 28.5 or more. I just think that the spread is too big and just not realistic. So we will see how we do this week, and we'll catch you guys next week, talk about our picks, how things turned out. Hopefully they turn out well for all of us, and we'll be back with more picks. That's all we've got for today. This is Beat the Odds College Football Edition.